Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. Today we are creating a very exciting project, which is the virtual calculator. So you can see here on the right hand side, we have our calculator and I can move around with my fingers and I can click and write down my equation. So let's say 78 minus 6 and that is equals to 72. Then let's try 5 minus 3, which is equals to, guess it, which is equals to 2. So we can clear as well using the keyboard, or we can add a clear button here as well. So you can also multiply, you can divide, pretty much you can do anything you can do on a regular calculator. So you can add a complete equation as well. So multiplied by 9, let's say, and then equals to, there you go, 297. That's our complete value. And you can see there is a little bit of animation as well. The image or the button gets a little bit bigger and the color changes. So if I press, you can see it becomes 5, it becomes bigger, and then it becomes a little bit whiter than before. So the color changes. So that is pretty cool. And this is a simple demo, and it is very useful if you are learning object-oriented programming, because that is what we are going to use here. We will create a button class and we will create these 16 buttons right from this class. So, and this class is very easy and the code is very easy actually. You can see here we are literally writing 100 lines of code, so 104, and that is the whole project. So it will be very easy to follow. And if you want to really create elegant designs and very good graphical interfaces, then I would highly recommend checking out our latest game development computer vision course, which will teach you how to create graphical interfaces. Because a lot of the times for games, we have to create buttons, we have to create UI elements, and we have to create the main screen and the menus and all that. So we are covering all of that within our game development course. So we will be creating the button class, the toggle class, the slider class, all these classes from scratch. And here you can see it is a simple, what you call class of button. But over there, it is much more complicated, much more advanced. We will have animations, we will have sound, we will have our own images. So you can import images for clicking, for hovering. So all of that will be written from scratch. So we will write all of the classes from scratch, and then you will be able to import it into your own projects. So all of that will be done in our new course. So do check that out. And for now, for today, let's just create this simple calculator and let's just have a little bit of fun. So let's get started. So here we are in our PyCharm project, and as you can see, we have named it virtual calculator. So the first thing we are going to do, we are going to go to File, Settings, and we have to add our packages. So here we will click on Project and we will click on Python interpreter. And as you can see, there's no interpreter here. So you can click on the setting and add, and then you can use the existing environment. So we will select that and it will give you Python 3.7. So I'm using Python 3.7.6. So that is quite stable. If anything is not installing properly, then you can go back to this Python and try it with the same versions that I'm using. So here, first of all, we are going to install CVZone, and we are also going to install MediaPipe. So MediaPipe is the package that will allow us to track the hand and detect the points. And CVZone is kind of a wrapper that makes it easier and has a lot of other functionalities that will make it very easy for us to write the code. So CVZone is done installing and we will wait for MediaPipe to finish. And I believe MediaPipe is installed as well. So now we can go ahead and create our file. We will right click and create new. Let's just call it main. So the first thing we will do is to import our packages. So we will write here import CV2, And then we are going to import CV zone. So actually we are going to import the hand tracking module within our CV zone package. So we will write from CV zone dot hand tracking module import hand detector. So this hand detector is what we are going to use to detect our hand and see if we have clicked on the buttons or not. Okay, so once that is done, we are going to add our webcam. So here we are going to write webcam. So we will add some comments as well, so it's easier for us to navigate in the long run. So here we will write cap is equals to cv2 dot video capture, and I'm using webcam number 1 because I have multiple webcams, but you will use webcam number 0. So let's start with webcam 1, and then you can define the size of the image, but here I will keep it at default, which is 640 by 480. And then we have to add our loop. So here we can call it loop. So while true, we want to run it always. We are going to get our image. So get image, let's say from webcam. So we are going to write success. This will tell us whether it detected, whether it grabbed the image successfully or not. Then we will write image is equals to cap dot read. So this will grab us the image, and this will tell us whether it's grabbed or not, successfully or not. Then we are also going to flip the image, because a lot of the times when we are using something that is on the screen, then our right is left and left is right, and it is a little bit annoying to navigate. So therefore we are going to flip our image horizontally. So we will write here image is equals to cv2 dot flip, and we are going to flip our image, and the axis on which we want to flip, if you write 0, will be Y, so it will flip vertically, but if you write 1, then it will flip horizontally. So we will add that, and then we are going to, at the end, we are going to write draw, or let's call it display image. So here we will write cv2 dot what is it called, I am show, and we will call it image, and then we will write image, and then we will write cv2 dot wait key, and we will put in the value of 1. So that is 1 millisecond delay. So that should be good enough. So let's just run it and see if it all works out, and then we can move on. So there you go. This is our image. That's me, and we are going to detect the hand, and we will add the calculator somewhere here so we can click and detect all the values. Okay, so that is done, and which is good. Now the next thing we will do is to detect our hand and to detect the finger. So that will let us know if there is a hand and what is the location of the finger that we are detecting. So let's just go ahead and do that. So here we are going to write, what should we write? Let's call it detection of hand. So we are not going to detect lots of hands. We will just detect one hand. So here under the webcam, we can write detector is equals to hand detector. And here we will write the detection confidence. Normally it's 0.5, but we will put it as 0.8. So if it's confident enough, 80% that it is a hand, then it should detect it, because we don't want false clicks. So that's why we are putting it at a higher value. Then we will write max hands is equals to 1. So we don't want multiple hands, so we will write it as 1. Then here we are going to do the detection of the hand. So this is just the initialization, and then we are going to do the detection of the hand, and which is very simple. It's just one line of code. We will write here that detector dot find hands, and we will give in our image, and that will detect the hands for us. So again, this is using the media pipe package at the back end to actually find all the hands and create all these list of points and send it back to us. So it will send all the list in the hands. We will call it hands, and then it will also send us an image back with the drawing. So we can remove the drawing from here. There's a parameter here. Draw is equals to false. We can add that. So by default, it is draw is equals to true. So if we wanted, we can write here draw is equals to false. But I believe you will have to remove image if you do that. If you check the returns, yeah. So if draw, otherwise it will only return hand. Anyways, so moving on, we will keep the drawing for now. And what else? Actually, let's just run it and see if it works before we move on to the next step. So there's my hand, and it is showing that it is a left hand, which is it's not a left hand because we have already flipped. If you see here, we have flipped the image. So if we have flipped, then we have to write here flip type is equals to false, I believe. By default, it is true. Yeah. So we will flip here and we'll put it as false. So now it's showing right. Even though it doesn't really matter because we are not using that value or that information in this project, but still it's good to know how to fix this issue. Anyways, so moving on, we are going to create buttons for each of the calculator inputs. So how can we do that? Now, the easiest method will be to create a class called button. And from that class, we create these objects that we can use. Because right now, what we are doing is we are creating 16 buttons. So writing, hard coding all of these 16 buttons will not be a very efficient way to do this. So it will be very, very easy if we actually create just a class. And this class will be very simple. So, but before we do that, what I like to do is I like to create one button. So whatever objects we are going to create later, what I like to do is I like to create a sample of it. And once we know what exactly do we need, then we can just convert it into a class. So this way it is a little bit easier to work with. So what exactly do we need? We need a button in which we have a text, and then we need to know where is this location. We need to pinpoint the location of that. And what else? Then we can add some what you call border around it so that looks better. And yeah, that is pretty much it in terms of drawing. And in terms of checking, we need to know its location. So we will keep it a square. So let's say 100 by 100. And using this location, we can check whether we have clicked or any XY location is present within this box or not. So we will check that later on. So the first thing we need to do, we need to draw a rectangle. So we write here cv2 dot rectangle, and we will put it on our image. And then we need to give in a position. So the position here, let's say it is 100 and 100. And then the width and the height of it is also 100 and 100. So the second point, point number 2, will be 200 and 200. So that will be our rectangle. And then we are going to give in a color. So we will give it almost a white color, not exactly white, because when we click it, we will make it completely white. So here we will give in 225 instead of 255, and then 225, and then 225. And then we are going to write cv2 dot filled. So we want it completely filled. So let's go ahead and run this. There you go. So we have our rectangle, and you can see that actually it's a square. So we have our square, and you can see it's not exactly white, not 100% white. So yeah, so the next thing will be to add a border around it. So for example, we keep the same location, and what we do is instead of saying filled, we just put it as, let's say, 3. And we change the color to kind of black. 0 is black, but again, we will not put it exactly as black. So we will put it at 50, 50, 50. Because very dark or very bright values, they look a bit odd. So there you go. So if I move my head, you can see that there is a border around the... Actually, I think that it might not be enough. The space might not be enough for 100 by 100. So either we need to decrease it or we need to increase the size of the image. What should we do? Let's increase the size of the image. Cap dot set, let's say 1280. This is property number 3, prop ID 3. And cap dot set, this is prop ID 4, which is the height. So we are changing the, oh, I'm putting the the other one. Anyways, so this is the width and this is the height. We are changing it so that it can fill up easily. So there you go. So now the image is much bigger, and oh, it's too close. So we will push this here, and then we will use the hand to move it around. Anyway, so then we also need, other than this, we also need a text. So we will write here cv2.put text, and then we are going to write that we want it on our image. Let's just put a value of 9, and then we are going to give in the position. So whatever position that we have here, so this is 100, so 100 plus something, so let's say 100 plus 20, and then we will write, no, that is wrong, so we need to put it in here, which is the y value. So y is again 100, and then we need to push it again, so let's just say plus 50. Then we need to give in the font, so cv2 dot font Hershey plain. Okay, that's the first one, so let's select that, and then we will put in the scale, which is 2, and then again the color we will put it same as the border, so 50, 50, and 50, and then we will again add the threshold, or not the threshold, the thickness as 2. So that is about it, and let's see how it looks like. So there you go. Oh, it's very small and it is not centered. So anyway, so we can center this later on. That's not really a big deal, but the concept is there. The proof of concept is there that we are able to create a button, and this is what the button should look like, and these are the attributes that it should have. Okay, so that being said, now we are going to create our class. So here we are going to write class button. Now this will be a very simple class. This is one of the best ways to start learning object-oriented programming. So if you're not familiar with that, don't worry, this will be very easy to follow. We will just have 2 methods. Actually, we will have 3 methods, and the first one will be initialization, and each one of them will not have a lot of code, and it will be very simple to follow. So let's just start. So within our button, we are going to define our initial method, and then within this initial method, we have to give in what exactly do we need. So if we bring in our code, so initialization, this is the initialization. The drawing part, it's not really initialization, but we can see what exactly do we need for the initialization. So here we need the position of this. So this, let's call it position. So that is the x1, y1. So we will call it position. And then we need the width. What is happening? Width and height. So here we will need the width and the height of the rectangle or the square. So this will be constant for all of them, but in case you want to change it, we will have it as a parameter that you can change. And then the last thing will be the value. So the value basically stands for this number. So it can be multiplied, it can be divided, it can be 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever the value is, we will add it like that. Okay, so now once we import all these values, we need to set it for the object of this particular instance. So we will say that self, which means the value of this instance of position is equals to whatever the user inputted. So whatever the user gave as the input, that will be the input for this instance. So for the next one, for the next button, it might be different. So we will set it for that. Then self dot width is equals to width. Then self dot height is equals to height, and then self dot value is equals to value. Well, what is happening? Value. Okay. So these are the initializations. We pretty much don't need anything else. So we can write it like that. And then we are not drawing it in the initialization because initialization is done before the while loop. And we need to draw these whenever we get the webcam frame, we need to draw on it. So we cannot draw this in the initialization. We have to have a separate function or a separate method. Whenever it's in the class, it's called a method. By the way, it is a function, but it's just called a method. So we need to create a separate method which we can call from the loop each time. So we do not want to initialize it in the loop each time. So this will be done before the loop and this will be done after the loop. So here we will write def draw and it will automatically write self for you. And then where do we want to draw? So it's very bad if you actually use a global variable here, for example, image, and then you just put the image here and you don't input anything here. So that will be very bad way to do it. So what you need to do is you need to input that I want to draw on this image, and then you can use that image. Okay, I hope that was clear. So now we need to change these values because we are not using these hard-coded values. So what is this? This will be self.position. So we can change all of this to self.position. So now whenever we want to use the position, we don't just write position because this will give you an error because it doesn't know what is position. But if you write self.position, then it knows, okay, you're talking about this variable. Okay. So this is self.position, and then we have the width and the height. So self.width and self.height. But if you remember, here we are not inputting width and height. Here we are supposed to write the x2 and the y2 value, which will be self.position at 0 plus self.width. So this is the value of x2. It's not the value of the width. And then the same thing will happen here, self.position, and this will be 1 plus height. Let me move this a little bit here so you can see better, and we can push this down. So yeah, that is pretty much it for the first rectangle. And then for the second one, it will be pretty much the same thing, but it will be the color. So we can just paste it here, and the color and the thickness will change. So here we can just paste this here. That's it. So we can remove this part. And then for the put text, we have the self.value that we need to change. This is the self.value. And then we need to change the position. So now we need to play with the position a little bit. So we will create one instance and check it out before we proceed. So we can write here self.position at 0 plus whatever the offset is. And then self.position, wait, what happened? Okay, self.position, and then we will put 1. And do we need to change anything else? I don't believe so. Okay, so that is good. So this is enough to actually draw, but how to detect the click, that we will see later on. But for now, we will just create the buttons. So here we are going to write creating buttons. So let's just create one button and we will call it button one, let's say, is equals to button, and we need to give in the position. So the position, let's say, is 700 and 150, and then the width is 100 and the height is 100, and the value, let's say, is 5. So that is our button. And now in the loop we are going to write detection of hand. Okay, after the detection of hand, draw all buttons. So here we will write button1 dot draw, and we have to give in the image on which we want to draw. So let's run that and hopefully it will give us the same result. Wait, what? Oh yeah, it's here. it's actually going to the background. I couldn't see it at the first glance. So yeah, so there you go. Now we have the calculator first button, and it is visibly good. The only thing, the image, the text is not centered, so we can keep it on the side, or I think it's better to center it. So here we are adding some value. So plus 20, let's make it 30, and here it is 50, let's make it 70. Let's see how that feels. Ooh, it went down too much. So let's push it a little bit forward, the width a little bit more and a little bit less on the height. So the height, let's say, is 60, and the width we need to push more, let's say 50. The width, I pushed it too much, let's say 40. So this is trial and error. I think it's fine. Like, you can play around a little bit more with this, but let's not spend too much time on this. Okay, so that is done and it is looking good. So now what we need to do is we need to create 16 of these. So now I'm pretty sure you know that this will be a very bad way to do it, like button 1, button 2, button 3, and so on. So forget about that. What are we doing then? So what we need to do is we need to create a list. So we will call it button list is equals to empty. And then we are going to go through a loop and we are going to create some buttons. So we will write for x in range, let's say 4. So we have 4 by 4, right? So we will create 4 of them. And then we are going to give in the x position. The x position is equals to the value of x, whatever it is right now, multiplied by 100, because that is the size, that is the width of one block. So if we need like 4 of them, so the total width will be 400. So each time, first time it will be 100, second time it will be 200, then 300, then 4, so on. So, and then we need to give the offset. So this is the initial offset. So the initial offset, let's say, I think, let's put it at 800. Let's put that a little bit further. And then we will write the y position. Y position is equals to, so right now we don't have the y position, so we'll just put it 100 plus something. So let's say 150. So yeah, that is basically the idea. So here we are going to replace this with x position and y position. And instead of putting it in button 1, we are going to say button list dot append. So we are going to append it to our list directly. We don't need to do anything else. There you go. So forget about the 5 value right now. All of them will have 5. We don't mind that. But wait, we didn't draw them. So we just created them, but we need to draw them as well. So here you can see there's already an error. So we need to say for button in button list, we are going to button.draw. There you go. That's how simple it is. So now we are working with 4, and like within few minutes we'll be working with 16. And there you go. So now we have lined up 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. So we will change the numbers later on, and but for now we need to put all of them in one place. So let's just do that first. Okay, so this is all good, and now we need to do the y. So we need to put another loop for y in range, not range. Again, we will put 4 because we have 4 by 4. And for the y position, we will just add a y here, y multiplied by 100. So if we run that, it should give us 16. There you go. So now we have 16 buttons. So that's pretty cool that we have all of them, and now it's drawing. So we didn't even have to change anything here because it's automatically detecting whatever number of buttons we have, and it is drawing all of them at the same time. Okay, so now let's cater the issue of button values. So here we have the button value of 5, but we need to change it. So we need to decide what will our calculator look like. So this, you can use it in your project and change the values as well. If you want a different kind of calculator, you can even do a scientific or something like that. So here we will call it button list values, and we will create a list, and then within that list we are going to create another list. So here we are going to put the value of 7, then 8, then 9, and then multiply. So multiply is this. So we will copy this, and we are going to paste it 3 times. And then for each one of them, we are going to change the value. So this will be 4, this will be 5, and this will be 6. And let's make this minus. Then this will be 3. Oh no, this will be 1. This will be 2, and this will be 3. And that make this plus. And let's make this 0, and this as slash or divide, and then this as dot and equals. Again, you can change whatever values you want here, and it should still work. So now we have a list. So what we need to do is we need to change the value here. So again, we will take it dynamically. We will put in the value here, button list values, and which value do we need? We need the value of X, and then we need the value of Y. So it's pretty much in the same pattern that we need. So we just put the X and Y value, and that should be good to go. Okay, so here we have 7 here. What? It should be 8 here. It's here. 8, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so it's actually flipped. So this line should be here. So let's put Y and X. I think that will solve. Yeah. So 7, 8, 9 asterisk 4, 5, 6 minus 1, 2, 3 plus 0 slash dot equals. So that's good. So now our calculator is almost ready in terms of appearance, but functionality wise we still need to do a little bit of stuff before we can run it. But before we go there, let's do one more thing. We are going to add the result part as well. So the result part, we don't need to go into creating a class and all that. So what we can do is we can just draw it above here. And what should we call it? Let's just write it without calling anything. So cv2.rectangle. Actually, let's just copy it. Why write it again and again? So it's going to be like this, but longer. So we will write it right about here. And here we are going to input our values. So the position will be 800 because that is what we started with. And then this will be about 70. Over here, it will be 800. This will be the initial position, plus the width will be 400 because we have 4 buttons, so it will be 4. Then here the height will be what do you call it, 70 plus whatever we need, let's say 100. So I'm putting these separate so that you understand what is the logic behind these values. Then for the position again, it is pretty much the same thing. So we can copy this part and we can paste it here. So let's just run that and see if it works. The color should be changed, or yeah, let's just keep it same. There you go. So now it is above the calculator, the buttons, and it looks good. Or should we increase the height? Maybe a little bit, or I think it's fine. If we have the height of, let's say 100, I think it will be better. So let's just put 50 here. 50 more, 20 more, is that? Yeah, it's a little bit higher. Yeah, I think this is better. Okay, so then we are going to create a variable. Do we have a variable option here? No, not yet. Okay, so this is creating buttons, so we will put it in one side, and then here we are going to write variables. And the variable we are going to add is basically our equation. So we will write here my equation is equals to empty, or for now let's just put an equation, so 10 plus 5, let's say, just for the testing purposes. Initially this should be empty, but right now we will put 10 plus 5. So 10 plus 5, and we need to draw it again. So but this drawing should be after the processing. So here we will do the processing, and then after the processing we should draw or display the result. So, or display the equation slash result. Both of them are the same thing. I will show you later why, but just go on with it right now. So what exactly we will do, we will write the text. So let's just copy the text part from here, and we will paste it here, and we will change the value to my equation. And then the position, we started with 800, so let's put it at 810, and then the position, let's start with 130, let's say, and see if it works fine. If it doesn't, we can come back. And the answer, let's make it a little bit bigger, so let's put 3 and 3, and the color, yeah, let's just put 50-50. I think it should be fine. So there you go. Is it a little too down? Maybe. So let's just push it up a little bit. So let's say 110. Might be too much. 110. Yeah, it's too much. Maybe 115 or 120 maybe. It will be better. Yeah, that's perfect. So now we have our display area as well. We have our buttons. So now we need to add the functionality to actually run it. So let's go ahead and do that. So what exactly do we need? First of all, we need to check if we clicked the hand or not. So after drawing, we are going to check for the hand. So let's call it check for hand. So if the hand is available, we will write if hands. So hands is already a list that we have here. Is it a list? Is it a dictionary? Hands, all hands is append, is a dictionary. Sorry, it's a list. So if there is something in hands, then we are going to find the distance between our fingers. So it should only have one hand, which means that if I write hands at 0, that should be always true, that there is something there. right? So we need to find the LM list. So inside hands, there is a dictionary. So in that dictionary, we can find the list called LM list. LM stands for landmark. So this L should be capital. So this will have the landmark list, which will have all the points of our fingers. So let's just call it LM list. So LM list is equals to hands LM list. And this has all the different points. The points that we are interested in are point number 8 and point number 12, which are basically the index point, index finger tip, and the middle finger tip. So let's just find the length. So we will write here detector dot find distance. What do we need to find the distance between the LM list at 8, point number 8, which is the index tip, and point number, why am I writing it wrong all the time? Anyways, LM list at 12, and we want to draw it on our image. So this will return us. If you don't understand it right now, don't worry. I'm going to show you the result and then explain it a little bit more. So here we will write the length and the info. We don't need the info, and then the image. So this is the idea. And yeah, so let's run this now, and hopefully you'll be able to understand it better, what is happening. So if I bring in my hand, you can see now we have this extra line, which basically is telling me that the tip of my finger here and the tip of my finger here, what is the distance between these two tips. So when the distance is lower, we will detect it as a click. When it's further apart, we will not detect it as a click. So here we need to print out the length. So we can write here print length, Length, and this should be in the if statement, because if there is no hand, there will be no length to find out. So here, let's just move it on the side. And if I close my finger, you can see it goes to 40. Now it's 100 and something. So I think this distance is fine. So if I close, so let's say less than 50. Yeah. So if the value is less than 50, if our length is less than 50, then we are going to check each of the buttons that which one did we press. So when we press, we check which location did we press on. So the location is very easy to find. We can find it outside the loop, outside the if statement. So X and Y of our index finger are LM list at 0.8. So this we already saw here. So that is our main finger. So wherever we point, that is our mouse. So we will get the X and Y value of that. And then we are going to go through all of the buttons and check one by one if it has been clicked or not. But how do we do that? So we will just pass here so that it doesn't give an error for now. So we will go up, and in our class, we are going to create a new method, and we will call it, what should we call it? Let's call it click something, clickable, or let's call it check click. So we are going to check if it has clicked or not. And what do we need? We need the mouse value or the index value, index finger value of X and Y. So this is what we need. And then all we have to do is basically we need to check that if the starting point of our box, which is X1, is less than X, if X is less than X1 and greater than X1 and less than X2. What is X2? X2 is basically X1 plus our width. So this is basically what we need to check. That if X is in between our initial value and initial value plus width. So here, let's say our box or our button starts at 100. Then we need to check whether it is between 100 plus 100. So this is the width and this is the initial value. So if it's between 100 and 200. So if the value is, let's say 120, then we will say yes, the button is clicked. If the value is at 500, we will say no, the button is not clicked. So we need to check that. So here we will put an if statement. We will put if the x1. So x1 is basically our self dot position at 0 value, and which is less than x, which is less than what do you called x plus x1 plus width. So x1 is this value, self dot position 0, and then we have plus self dot width. So that's our self dot width. And then we also need to check for the y. But for now, let's just keep it like this. If that is the case, then what should we do? Let's change the color of the rectangle so that we know that something is happening. So, and should we change the text? Yeah, we should change the text as well. Let's just copy all of this. We don't need to change the border. The border can remain the same. And this part here, we will change the color of it. So we will make it 255, 255, and 255. And this we will make it really dark, 0, 0, 0. And also we can zoom in a little bit. So let's say we will put here, instead of 2, let's put 5, the text. And if we put 5, we need to change the values here. So let's say 20, and let's say 70. But wait, we didn't actually call check click function. So here we are saying that if length is less than 50, then we have to loop through all the buttons and then check if they are clicked. So we are going to write here for button in button list. So we did this before as well, but it is outside the loop. So we cannot do it just once. We have to do it again because it's in the if statement. So here we will have our button list, and then we will see that button dot check click, and we give in the x and the y. So the x and the y will remain the same for all of the buttons. So we can check. So if any of them is clicked, it will change the color. Hopefully. So if we go there, here, yeah, there you go. So right now, we are not checking the y. That's why it's doing for all of the buttons in that row, in that column. But now we are going to do for the y as well. So then it will only do for one button at one time. But it is working. So if we click here, you can see, by the way, this value should be above the calculator. Why is it below? Can we change that? I think it will be fine. Anyways, so yeah, that's the basic idea. So here we are going to go up, and here we are just checking for the width. We will also put and then let's just go to the new line. It will be easier. And we will copy all of this, and instead of position 0, we'll put position 1, and x we will put y, and position 0 we'll put 1, and width we will put as height. So that should be enough. Let's run it again. So now if I click, there you go, 4, 5, 6, 9, 8, 7, there you go. So it is being clicked. But I think it's not centered properly. Maybe a little bit down and a little bit to the right. Or when it is animated, when it's zoomed in. So where are the values? So the values are right now 20 and 70. So maybe a little bit 25 and let's say 80. Yeah, now it's centered. So there you go. So it looks better. There you go. It's fun to move around like this. Anyways, so now just sending or just changing the color of the box or the button is not enough. We need some feedback so that we can act on that. So what we will do is, if this is true, then we are going to return true. Otherwise, else we are going to return false. So this way we will know that whether this button was clicked or not, because it is going through all the 16 buttons and it is checking if any one of them were clicked or not. So we will say that if our button check click at this point is true, means this button was clicked, then we can check the number of that button. So we can say that row number 1, column number 3 was pressed. So whatever value that is, add it to our equation. But how can we do that? We need to know the count of the loop, because right now it's a list. It's two-dimensional. It's not two-dimensional. It's one-dimensional. So we don't have any number. So we need to know how many times it looped. So we will write here I, and we will put here enumerate. Enumerate. There you go. Enumerate, and that will give us the count value. So now we have the count value. So if it's button 1, it will say 1. If it's button 2, it will say 2. But we don't know the row and the column. That's the problem. So right now, if I just put I, so if I say that I want the value from here, basically that's what we want. So we need to check which button was clicked, and we want to take the value of that button and add it to our equation. So right now this is in 2D format, and this here is in 1D format, one-dimensional. So this is an issue. So what can we do? What we cannot do is simply write here button list values and I. We cannot do that because that will give us the complete list. I will show you what I mean. So print this, and it will give an error as well because it will go out of loop. If I go here and click, there you go. That's the error. And here it is printing. So it's printing the whole array. So it is printing 4, 5, 6 and minus. So we don't want that. We want only one of them. So wherever it clicked. So what can we do is, here we will do a little bit of maths. Very simple. So it's a two-dimensional array. So we need two values here. The first value will be a remainder of 4. So we will put remainder of 4. And the second value will be a division of 4. So I divided by 4. So this here will tell us the exact value that is being used. So if we print this now, actually this might give a floating value. We need to check for that. So if I press on 4, yeah, must be integers, not float. Yeah. So we need to change that. We need to change it here, int. And we need to change here int. There you go. So let's run that again. Okay, so let's do 4. Okay, this is annoying because it's printing the other value as well, which is the length. We don't need the length anymore. We know that it will be less than 50. So let's try out this. So if I do 4, there you go, 4, 5, 8, 6, 3, plus, minus, multiply. Oh, multiply didn't work. Multiply, there you go. So what exactly is happening? If you didn't understand that, for example, if this value is basically less than 4, so it is in the first row, so it will remain 0. So for 4 values, this will remain 0. And then the same thing happens for this one. So we are getting the column number. So column number 1, column number 2, column number 3, using the remainder. So if we divide, for example, 7 by 4 using this, then 7 is divisible by 4. It's not. So we get, as a remainder, we get the value of 3. So here we will have 3 and here we will have 1. So this is row number 1, column number 3. I hope you understand that concept. So we can put this value in something called as my value or current value, whatever you want to put it in. So we will put this in here, and then we will put this value in our equation. So this is our equation. So we will not just say my equation is equals to this, because we want to keep adding. So if we press 5, then it should be 5. Then next time we press 6, then it should become 56, right? So we keep adding that. So we will say my equation plus equals my value. So this is what we will do. So now it should show us in the actual display. So if I press 4, you can see 4 comes up. Now it is coming multiple times. We will solve that, don't worry. But for now, let's just enjoy this fact that this is running as a button. So my equation, there you go, 4, 5, minus 9, 9, 5 equals. But now, if we put equals, it is actually putting equals to sign, which does not make any sense. So how can we fix that? Let's go down. And here we are going to add one condition. We will say that if my value is equals to equal, which is weird to say, but anyways, if my value is equals to equal, then we will say my equation we need to solve. So in Python, we have a very easy way to solve this. So if, for example, I want to print out, let's say, or let's just print it out actually over here. Print, let's say 5 plus 5, right? Let me pass this for now. Okay. So here we will print, and we are printing something else as well here, or not? We were, right? No. Okay. We removed it. So here, if we write print 5 plus 5, and if I print this, what will happen? It will give me 5 plus 5. So this is the kind of string that we currently have. So here in the equation, it is 5 plus 6 plus 7 divided by 4, blah, blah, blah. So what we need to do, we need to solve it. So to solve it, we have a very simple method. It's called eval. So if we write eval, it is actually going to solve this. So it will not give you 5 plus 5. It will give you the value of 10. There you go. So that's how simple it is. So all we need to do is we need to write in the equation, whatever the equation is, there is a minus, there is a plus, division, whatever it is, we do that, and we just call the method eval, and it works. It will give you the answer. So we will say that if my value is equal, then we are going to write that my equation is not plus equals my value. My equation is equals to eval and eval of my equation. So whatever the equation is, convert it, give me the answer, and put it in my equation. But remember, my equation is basically a string. and this is a number. So we need to convert it back into string. Otherwise, it will not print out. Because we are using the OpenCV put text, my equation needs to be string. Otherwise, it will not display. And if it is not equal, then you can write else you do, wait, what is happening? Else you do for all of the rest, you do this. Like before we did, pretty much. So let's see if that works. So we have 7, 5. Again, don't worry about the multiple numbers. Oh no, but we can't put minus, minus, minus. I think it will give an error. Let's try it again. Or let's just put an equation by default. Let's say 5 plus 9, because it will be harder to write plus without adding a few of them. So we can add numbers now, like 5 plus 94 is 99. There you go, equals to. So, and then I can write plus something, or I can write 6 in front of it, and then multiply. Twice. It will give an error, most probably. If we write here, go down and do that. Oh no, it worked. I think the double multiplication is to the power of, so probably it didn't give an error because of that. Anyways, so that is good. But now we have the issue of duplicates. So we need to avoid duplicates. It's actually fairly simple. So we will write here a section to avoid, let's write here to avoid, or let's not write to, avoid duplicates. So how can we do that? We are going to add a counter, and we are going to say that if this counter is running, don't detect anything new. So whenever you click once, it will detect a counter. It will start the counter, and then it will not do anything until the counter finishes counting. Another easier way to do it is from time. So you can write import time, but this is a bad way to do it, and I will show you why. So import time, and every time we click, this is in the if statement. If the button is true, then every time we are going to delay. So time dot sleep, and we will give in, let's say, 0.2 seconds. So technically this should remove the repetitions, but it is slow because it's slowing down, and you can see there is a drag, a delay. But it removes the duplicates. So if we click equals to, there you go, you get the value. But again, as I mentioned, it is not the best way to do it. So we will add a counter instead, and we will call it, let's go to the variables, and we are going to call it delay counter. Delay counter is equals to 0. So initially it will be 0, and then when it detects a button click, we will start the counter. So we will write here delay counter. Doesn't matter if it is equal to or a value, doesn't matter. It should start the counter. Delay counter, because it is counted as a click, is equals to 1. So if it is equals to 1, it means we have started the counter. So then at the bottom, we are going to write here that if, now this should be outside, it should not be in the hands or anything, it should be outside always. So if delay counter is not equals to 0, it means it has started, then we are going to, should be like that, okay. Then we are going to keep counting. Delay counter plus equals 1. Plus equals 1. And then we will check if the delay counter is greater than, let's say, 10. So 10 frames have passed by. Then we will put the delay counter as 0. So we will stop the delay counter. So let's run that and see if it works. So we click and it does not. Oh yeah, I forgot one thing. So right now we are saying that every time you detect a click, put the delay counter as 1. So every time it checks, it is putting it as 1 again and again and again. So even if it is at the next frame, it will put it as 1 again. Even if it was 1 before, it will put it 1 again. So we need to tell it that even if the button is clicked, don't get in until the counter is 0. So we need to write and delay counter is equals to 0. So if the delay counter is 0 and it is clicked, then it will start the counter and then it will do the detection and all that. So let's run that. So 5, there you go. Now it's perfect. So you can see there's no delay, no lag, and you can write in all the values you want. And there you go, equals to, what happened? Maybe the expression was bad. Yeah, you cannot have a plus at the end and put it equals to. So you need to give a value plus something, plus 5, plus 2, whatever you want to put. You have to put a value. My bad. So let's just remove the 5 plus 9. That's annoying. Let's just remove that. Run it again. So yeah. So 4 minus 6 plus 3 equals 1. 4. So it will not remove the 1. That is a problem as well. We can fix that. 14 multiplied by 5 is equals to 70. Plus 3 is equals to 73. So what we don't have here is a clear button. And well, you can add a clear button and add a condition for clear as well. But for now, I think it will be too much to add that. Actually, let's put it as a challenge for you to add a clear button. But for now, I will tell you how you can clear it from the keyboard. So here you can write key is equals to, actually, let's just put it here. Key is equals to cv2 dot wait key. And then you will write that if my key, why am I writing like that? If key is equals to ORD C. So if we press the C button on the keyboard, then you will put the my equation as empty. So you will clear that out. And that's pretty much it. That's how simple it is. You can do it from the keyboard. So let's run it and test if it works. So there you go. And let's just put a value 4, 5. And if I press C, it clears out. So 8, 9 multiplied by 6 is equals to 534. Then I can clear, and then 6 minus 3 is equals to 3. Plus 2 is equals to 5. And then clear, it clears out. So that's the basic idea. Again, you can make this calculator fancy as well. And if you really want to know the graphical interface and how to add images for buttons, how to add animations, proper animations for hover, for click, and you want to add sound as well. So all of that is covered in our new course, which is the computer vision game development course. So when we are creating games, we are actually creating buttons and sliders and these toggle buttons. So all of these are different classes. Like we did the button class here, there will be button class, which is quite advanced for animation, for hovering, for clicking. So all of that will be added to the button itself, and then you can create multiple buttons as you wish. So this is basically the idea of this project. I hope you have liked this. I hope that you have learned something new. And if you did like this video, share it with your friends and do leave a comment what would you like to see next and whether you found this video useful or not. And that is it for today, and I will see you in the next one.